these are the ones that I received, and let's just go through and talk about all of these a little bit. And then we'll pick out the winners. This one's from Alec, Valakut Art. There's some things I really like about this piece. This is pretty cool. I do like the idea that it's sort of an individual mushroom, but it is also an entire selection. It's one that grows off. And that these tiers out here actually have grass on them. They're just another level of grass, and you could have other stuff growing on them. And that the windows, I don't know, are carved or grown out from between the little ribs of the mushrooms. All Night Design came in with this one. I like this approach. It's almost like a watercolor with pen and ink over top. It reminds me a little bit of almost like a comic strip style. And I don't see that much. It's a fun style. This one's definitely a mishmash. I think that the idea is good, but it needs to be refined a little more. So I've got kind of a swampy feel here. There's like stuff hanging off of it, and it's sort of ugly looking with these big spots on it and this thing growing off of it. But I think if you went with that and made it like really mossy, sort of swampy, and it had lots of little vines hanging off of it, and there's other plants growing off the top of it. So it's kind of like its own ecological system. And then I do like this idea of the shack sort of built up on top of it. This guy's just made use of this thing as a platform to build. Maybe that there's no solid ground down here, right? It's just all boggy stuff. And so the actually only firm foundation you could get is to build on top of these giant mushrooms, because they reach so far down into the bog that they can have a good platform. Anyway, if you got that idea and ran with it, that would be really cool. I appreciate this submission. All Night, thank you. This is from Amari. We have a mushroom castle. I thought that was a really excellent way to take this. This would almost be fitting in Mario's Mushroom Kingdom, sort of comes to mind. We have the mushroom houses and the mushroom castle. These seem like you are genuinely using the mushroom to build your house into, whereas this feels more like there was a castle and these big mushrooms grew up around it, or they built the castle around the mushrooms, one or the other. Not so much that they're using the mushrooms themselves as part of the castle, but there you go. I have to say, it's very well done. Has very nice controlled color scheme. The lighting is nice and clean and interesting, and you set a good mood for the whole thing. So, this one is from A-Man J. More of a concept piece, less of a full illustration like the last one we saw. I do like that he has this little gray breakdown over here that little mushrooms, they put a big trunk on top of it. The mushroom grows up through it, cut a hole in the trunk, and then a mushroom goes out the sides. And then little mushrooms start growing out the top of that one. And so there we go. It's sort of a mix between growing the building and trimming it, and then building into it. Beautiful combination. And I do like the style here. It's nice and clean. And that's something you don't see a lot in beginning artists and amateur artists. They keep concept art actually too rough. And this is nice and clean, even though it's not super detailed. So, great idea, great concept. And I do appreciate the variety of mushrooms here. We have some of these that have like the really tight little fans underneath. This one, it doesn't have the perfect dome. This one is almost like, this is a different feeling, almost like underwater, just kind of shapes there. So lots of different shapes. And you thought out the whole process. Another one, a lot more mood on this scene. They're going more for a full painting. I do like, these are like very simple. So instead of just a house, it's almost like an entire building, like a whole community thing. Working with a lot of distance here. I almost wish we had a little more light on these. So it was less about the the whole scene and the mood, and more about the mushrooms themselves. I'd be curious to see a little more detail on the mushrooms, or how it's built, or what colors they are, or what texture it is, and less about the scene. But if you were just wanting to go for a scene piece, then I think you're doing well with the controlled values and the controlled colors. Bombajid? Bomb! If you did not see my message earlier, you still need to message me. Send me a private message on YouTube. We need to work out the thing from last week. I can't send you a private message from my account. You have to send it to me first, and then I can respond to you. This one has a particularly interesting idea, that the large mushrooms are like growing on this beach, and they're building the house into it. And I could see that if these mushrooms weren't nice and soft, the way you normally think, if these were more solid, like a coral, then this would be a legitimate way to build a building. I mean, that would be pretty cool. You could go in there and like chainsaw out, you know, the space that you want, or where you want windows, and it would just stay that way. It'd be like living concrete, you know, it's just growing. So he's using a little Google SketchUp to create the deck out here, and then sketching in the shapes of the mushrooms in Photoshop. Particularly good idea. I like the concepts there. And just the interesting shapes. He didn't go for just the normal flat mushroom top. He's angled them. He has leans to them. He has different ribs to them. Some of them coming out, some are going back. I like the variety. Dinsar, another scene. More about creating the scene, less about the dwelling itself. He did say that he didn't get as much time to finish this as he wanted, so it is sort of unfinished. Please take the time, go back, finish it to whatever you like. I do like the scene. I feel like there is sort of a mix of perspective here, though, so do watch that. The perspective of this water and the perspective of this ground going up here are both different, as well as on her. Her perspective shows that the eye line is about her eye level, but the perspective on this building is up here. So, work that out, and also make sure that you have a distinct color scheme you're going for this scene, because right now it's not really set. So keep working with it, and come up with some more ideas about the mushroom. Find something unique about these. I don't know, maybe they have little ribs coming up to the top, or maybe the top glows, or maybe they've added windows in here, or there's other mushrooms growing off of this big mushroom. Something, give it some character to the mushroom houses themselves. Yes, there were nice use of colors on the blue mushrooms, Feder. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Comment here saying the castle image could fit into some mobile games. Yeah, I like the idea. It's fun, it's colorful, and it would fit just a lot of variety of different fantasy games. Okay, Jay Welsh. I never really thought about it this way, but this is a cool idea. Sort of a cathedral version where the mushroom comes up, and then as it comes down, they form the pillars. That's a cool idea. It's sort of a difficult thing to pull off, I think. The perspective alone is a troublesome thing. But I get your idea. I think it needs more work to work it out properly. I do like the concept that the light is coming through the mushroom. And it would be even cool if you handed it to me, what would I do? I would make it so that it changes colors as it goes out. Either the little ribbed areas are one color and it fades to a different color in the in-betweens, or it starts, orange and then it goes up into red and then it turns violet, at the tips. So it has this sort of natural stained glass where it shifts colors on different parts of it. So it really give a lot of cool color to the scene. I like that idea. And maybe even push it further where they're using other mushrooms to do some of the different parts of it over here. Leo, has his submission here. I'm not sure why we have white bars on the top and bottom, but there we go. He has his basic house here. Yeah, this is another one where the concept is good, has the right height, you've got some trees around it, but go find some more references. I feel like these trees are very straightforward. So if you're going to do trees like that, if you want to have some trees in the background, make sure you're referencing something just to give a little more variety, because most trees have more variance than that. They naturally are not that perfect. And find some things about this mushroom, again, to make it a little more unique. Give it some more personality. When you're dealing with something that's organic like this, then think about twisting it. And that's one of the best ways to do it. Make it bend into a twist. Give it a twist on the trunk of the mushroom. Or make it branch off. Or think about its history. At what point, when it was little, did something fall on it? Well, if something fell on it, it would tilt it this way, and it would create a bend. Maybe because it bent over, it had to make a new, little mushroom top over here. And then as it grew up, maybe that part got hit by lightning. So that part could be damaged. And then, and you just kind of think through the history of this thing, about what it's had to go through. And it gives you ideas of how you can twist it and bend it and change it up to give it more character. But I appreciate the entry. Awesome, awesome. We have Lynn Stalon. She did a little night and day variation. That's nice. And another one, sort of a nice clean style. Just the black lines. Almost watercolor version underneath. And this is nice. See, this is, if you want to do a simple one, she went ahead and thought about using another little mushroom to add a chimney up here. I like the red tiles on the roofs, and she has a little sign out here. I mean, it's a tiny little room, right? I mean, it can barely be the size of a closet if you're actually inside, but it's very cute. I like it, and this is a good idea that the light comes out the top, and there's these little luminescent spots around the top there. That's cool. Yeah, I'm with you. Comment saying the cathedral is a really great idea. It is a great idea. Whoever did that, make a full illustration. Yeah, continue working on that cathedral idea. Try some variations with it, different shapes, different ways that maybe multiple kinds of mushrooms could go together, or maybe it's a multi-tiered mushroom, where, maybe you think of, look up some photos of cathedrals from the inside and start trying to mimic some of the other shapes of cathedrals with other mushrooms. And each one of them, maybe they're metallic gold mushrooms. I don't know. Just these beautiful colors and metallics and the lights coming through. So it's a very cool idea. All right, that one I think is not quite fitting. Let me move that up. There we go. All right, so we have this one, a little village of mushroom houses. Going again more for the scene, not so much for the concept, more of the execution. This is another one. Even if you're getting to this point, do stop and just add some variation, like with your tree. A little simple on the tree. But I like the idea that there's an entire group of houses here, and it's just totally normal for them to be walking their dog and they're living in these houses. That's fun. That's fun. This is from Mitch. Yep. So if I always go forward with this, again, maybe some other variations or something particular about these mushrooms. If you're going to do a big fat mushroom like this, maybe look at something like the baobab tree. And there are super thick round trees at the bottom, and they have little fat limbs with a couple little leaves on the top. And that's the kind of tree. You can look that up. See, maybe if you try to cross something like that with your mushroom, you can come up with a little more interesting shape. And so you look at it and it's kind of a mushroom, but it kind of looks like a tree too. Because if you can look at it and get the feeling that it's also tree-like, then it makes sense why it's dense enough and strong enough to make a house out of. We have Orchid Kitty right here. That's a fun scene. I like that. Night scene. Again, a little village. Because people are really into round windows, I guess. I do like the night scene. I like trying something a little different there. I think it would be more interesting to see that the mushrooms somehow created light rather than just light coming in from, light coming out from the windows. If maybe the bottom of the mushrooms glowed, they had a luminescence to them, that would be pretty cool. The supports over here, I get that. If you're going to do supports, then run with it more that direction. Like, get the entire top heavy piece and make it so it's, falling over. The top has got so heavy and lopsided that it's about to fall over. And they've gone and had to build supports to keep this thing up. And that way it justifies it and it gives it more character at the same time. This one is from Sardi 96. Witch's House. Okay. Okay, and this is sort of what I was talking about earlier. See this nice little twist? That gives it a little character as it goes up. You can see it how it's bending around there. Multi-tiers to this. And I do like the extra little variation of the mushrooms growing off the top there. House, can't make out the character very well. She's standing over there like a hot cup of coffee or something. Okay. That's good. Pretty clean. I like that. And we've got the Chinese lanterns here. Now, this building itself doesn't have that much character. I mean, it's just an A-frame, no real architectural detail or anything. But I would advise to go back and do some more work with this concept. The concept is solid. These guys are fun shape. I like the whole lean to it. But get the Chinese lanterns and let that really influence it. Because you can come in here and start adding Chinese and Asian architecture to this thing. And add the tile roofs on it. Add the bits that come off the side. Add more of the hanging lanterns up here. Look at the way that they build their ancient houses or their huts. And start adding that influence so that this is an Asian building or alternate mushroom thing that could grow over there that could be real. And that way that it's not just a basic building. This has a real culture to it. We have Sergio Ramirez. Another concept art piece, worth a breakdown, so I like that. See, this one at least has a little more character. It's sort of what I was talking about, the old European style with the frame, the wood frame with the white stucco in between that. And that's fun. And the idea being that it's somehow a cross between just the mushroom and the building. They're having to build the supports here. That's well done. And using the other mushroom as supports. Yep. Good. I like it. They even have stone. The building stone chimneys up to this thing. Kind of cool. I would suggest bring this porch out further. It looks like it has a porch, but it stops immediately at the base of the mushroom. So the shape of that is confusing me a little bit. I would suggest going back and looking at that. Then, like, the distance between this three-dimensionally has something off with it. Because this centerpiece, the distance from the centerpiece to these down here is quite a bit. However, if we look over here, the top of it and the top of this are almost equal. Where ideally there should be a lot of distance in between this. Like, this should at least be way up here. So three-dimensionally need to look at some of those and where those are lining up again, because that's not quite working. Or the bottom of this needs to be brought down half that distance and make a little more sense. Good execution, clean execution, good idea. And Whimsy Witch has a watercolor piece. She did not do a digital piece like most of them. She did do a traditional little watercolor piece. This is Whimsy. Yeah, I love it. Colorful. It's fun. She has her mushroom being a observatory. Even a little spaceship down here, and this thing's glowing. So concept-wise, it's very straightforward, but I do love the execution. So, and again, guys, this is not a digital only. You feel free to do your traditional pieces. So. All right, so the standout ones for me this time. Execution. I think one of the best one execution is a Murray with the castle. The castle itself is fairly straightforward, but wonderful execution on it. I also like the concept and the cleanliness of A-Man's. Alex has pretty good concept, and this one isn't thought through quite as much as this one. The execution is about the same. So I'm just kind of talking through my process, the way that I would be looking at these. I do like the color variety here, a little more of the ecosystem. This is a little more standalone. I do appreciate the lopsidedness of these, not keeping it perfectly even. A lot of these other ones. Jay Welsh, great idea. The execution not quite as high. So full props for the concept. Execution not quite as much. This one too. The concept was pretty good, and the execution is clean. I would have liked to have seen it pushed further with the concept, a lot more character in the building itself. You know what? This week, I'm going to have two winners. I think both of these are just really fantastic. So, A-Man and a Murray, you guys need to send me a private message over on YouTube and let me know, and I will hook you up with some free products from the Swatches store. So this is what I've said before, guys. You can either have a really good concept, a really good execution, or get high in both. And that's what we're seeing here. I think the concept here is more interesting and more original than this one. But I cannot play down how well this one is handled and just how enjoyable of a piece it is. So I will let those win. Yeah, Jay Welch made a nice comment. I appreciate how the horse and cart gives you a sense of who lives in this world. Yeah, talking about this piece here. It really does. It makes it feel more lived in. And, you know, it gives you an idea of scale. And just gives you that human connection. So, that's fun. You know, if you were kept working on this, I think it would be neat if you got this one major tower piece and made that a combination castle piece and a mushroom top. So that would be my suggestion. Give one primary big one there with some of the little ones around it, and let that be a combination. So it's not just castle or mushroom, but let a couple of the pieces, one big one, maybe a small one on each side, be a mix between the two somewhere there. And yeah, that's a good idea. I'd probably offset this guy a little bit though. Have that major mushroom here, and then don't have this guy right in the middle of the scene. I'd pull him back over in this area a bit more. Yeah. Very good, very good. Thank you so much for all the entries, guys. I'm always looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with, and I am impressed with your originality and your ideas. Make a brush to paint grass, and if it's possible, a mini tutorial on how to paint grass field, because it isn't all about the brush. The kind of strokes is important. Yeah, the thing about grass is you don't want to use one of those. You don't want to use one of those Photoshop brushes that have the grass, little blades on it. It just looks so artificial, and it's carbon copied. What you want to do is, let's see, maybe we'll just sketch a little scene here. Okay, we'll use these colors. Fine, whatever. We'll shift this. Grass is usually a lot warmer than people think it is. So I'm just blocking in some tones. So like if I was going to paint a little grass hill here, how would I go about doing it? Well, like I said, I'm going to use this brush that has some color variation in it, just to add a bit. That's nice. And then also want to use a bit more, something a bit warmer, I think. Sample some of that color. I would want to start with adding form to the overall thing. I'm not caring about so much the distinct grass part yet. What I want to do is start adding more form to it. I'm going to start adding just a little texture. I don't want to have to paint everything by hand, so I'm coming in with just a couple of different shapes of brushes and adding some texture to it all. And then I'll come back and just sample areas. The thing to keep in mind when doing something as complex as a field of grass is relative detail. You want to detail the areas that are going to get looked at the most, and people will attribute that much detail to other places as well. So you don't have to paint everything detailed. You just need to paint the areas that are most important. I would suggest if you want to know how to paint a grassy hill, the thing that I think about is how do they do it for animated movies, backgrounds. They have a really good system. That's sort of how they approach it. Go look up videos about somebody painting a background for a Studio Ghibli film. And those guys are just master artists. And I'm using a little of their technique here. You block in some basic forms, add some colors. And now I'm using kind of a vertical pattern with a little bit lighter to pull out the tops of some of these spots in the ground. I think it's better to use a variety of textures, because if you were to look at something like a grass field, you're not going to have one kind of grass. You're going to have short grass, tall grass, grass of this variety, a weed of that kind. All kinds of different sort of blades of grass are going to be sticking up. And you want to have brush strokes that mimic different kinds of grasses or would be substituted. They're representing different kinds of grasses. Now, this is the same way that you would approach drawing a very complex scene. I've drawn some scenes from life just in pencil of like a garden scene of just lots of different plants growing up over this arbor. And when you're drawing, obviously you don't have a lot of color options. So one of the things that you have to do is you change your pattern for each kind of leaf. One kind of leaf, you draw it in squiggles like this. Another leaf, you do it in more circular motions. The next leaf, and it doesn't really matter which one you use on which. It's just that pattern allows there to feel like there are different kinds of plants in there. Maybe there's a little path up there. Yeah, let's introduce a little path. There's a couple other things that we could talk about from that too. So I'm just blocking in with the basic sort of light brown. And don't forget how light dirt can actually look. Yeah, there's a little path up here. And it'll go up to the top of the mound there. Now I'm varying my brush. I'm not trying to keep this real clean. I mean, if you look at my brush strokes here, I'm just suggesting it. I'm just picking out a little spot here, picking out a little spot there. Come over here, use some other color. Sample that color. I'm squiggling. I do just a lot of squiggling in order to randomize it, change my brush shape. I mean, my brush size. And then, overall, I'm going to have this going into shadow a little bit. Let's set this back up here. And I'm going to shadow this down a bit. There we go. Okay. Just so that we have some sort of continuity going on here. Let me take a look here. It says Darken has this one on Gumroad. Maybe you should check it out. Let's see. I don't know the video offhand, but if it's from Darken, it's probably good. I know him. He's awesome. Let's see. I have a hard time with stroke motions more than what type of brush I'm using. We can't see your whole screen. Is all of this on the same layer? Yeah, this is all on the same layer at the moment. I can close this out of the way. Yeah, I'm just on one layer. I'm just goofing around right now. There's not a lot of need. Here we go. Should be able to see more now. Okay, since we are having a little shadow over here, maybe that there's kind of a break in the clouds, and we're having more light up here, and then we're going to have this going into shadow, and if that is in shadow, that means the only light hitting that is going to be cool. So I will pick more of a blue, and there will be some light and dark patterns out here, but it's going to have light blue as the highlight, or the lighter version. So it's going to cool off in there. You always see little pockets of darkness just in between different spots of the grass. So I'll come in here. And, I don't know who suggested the grass thing. I don't remember offhand. But this is actually a really good discussion or a topic to go over. It shows brushes quite a bit. So I'm still using my sort of chalky brush, the pastel brush there. I'm going to maybe use this guy. Maybe if the computer will respond to me. I'm going to use this light tone. I'm going to just make some little dots. Those are barely visible, but that's all I want. I just want to add some more visual noise. Little details. Suggested details. Along here, and I want to use color. A lot of grass changes color, so I'm using my big stroke brush, which you can't see when I have it set to color. I'll set it on a bright color, then you can see. It looks like that. Okay, I'm going to use that and see if I can't change the color of some of this grass down here in front. Go back to my bristly brush. And let's start pulling out some more forms and finding what we like out of this. So far, I'm thinking it's going pretty good. I feel like there's some good forms in there. I'm going to make a new layer. Just to feel like making a new layer. Starting on that. And set my opacity back up. I'll establish some darks. Just want to get dark back in some of this tall grass. And we also want to show the thickness of the grass. So you can usually put a shadow along the side of a trail like this, and it makes it feel like there's a thickness to the vegetation. You can also see the brush strokes. Some of the strokes I'm going horizontal so that it follows the contour of the path. And some of them I want to break vertical, so I'm using just basic hashed marks to go up and down to indicate the shape of the grasses. And this is more illustrative. This isn't going to look like a photo when I'm done. This will look like a drawing. So need some more, expand more lights. So I'm going through here. I'm just kind of looking at this and thinking, well, if this was a real path, some spots here or there are going to be catching a bit more light. Larger little pebbles, flat spots, sort of thing. I think we need some more color though. We have just a lot of the same sort of green along there, and that's not really doing it for me. Let's get something like a yellow. That is entirely too dull. Let's get something more like an orange. Turn the opacity down a little bit. And all right, I'm going to use this guy. He's my rubble brush, all right? And he makes this sort of shape. It's one shape, but it can be, I have size, angle, jitter. We'll turn it on. I'll show you what it is down here. So these are the settings. Shape dynamics, we have size jitter a little bit. It is set to be random. I don't control the size jitter. The minimum diameter, it can get pretty small. It does have angle jitter. It can turn around as much as it wants to. It has a roundness jitter with a minimum roundness of 23. It does have scattering, so that's why it's not always exactly where I put my brush. It can go off a little bit. But it does have a transfer. I do control how opacity sensitive it is. So let's back up until we get rid of that. And I want to make it little, and then come in here and start adding maybe some like little orange flowers that are much too dark for something like that. Yeah. Let me take a look on here. Let's see. This is one of the, I say comment here. It says it would take me ages to do this much. It would take you ages to do that much if you were trying to do it all without using the brush, advantage of the brush. I'm trying to suggest as much as possible before having to go in to tell as much as possible. Because when it gets into telling, where you're actually specifically having to draw individual things at a time, then yeah, it gets slow fast. So that's not what we want to do. I'm going to go back to my bristly one. I think that's probably the one I need right now. And I'm going to start pulling out some of the ones I like, hitting those up with some yellow. I don't know what they are, the little yellow flowers out here somewhere. I'll bunch some of them together. Put some of them up here. I think we need some other colors too. Like some pinks, maybe? Yeah. That's cool. Reminds me a little bit of the flower field that Hal takes Sophie to in Howl's Moving Castle. Very, very beautiful field. If you haven't looked that up, look up the backgrounds for Howl's Moving Castle and the flower field, and how particularly well those were done. I don't want to cover up those flowers. I do want those there, but I want to work underneath them on this grass a bit more. So I'm going to make a layer underneath there and pick out a brighter green, shift it a little more to the yellow side. Now I'm using just my bristly brush to start making some of these hat shapes, but that bristle is almost getting too busy. Use my regular round one. So now, I wouldn't really say this is detail, but I'm coming in here and just breaking it up. This is the basic pattern I'm doing. All right, and it's kind of suggesting a single clump of grass. But because I'm doing it by hand, none of them are exactly the same. And I'm trying to follow the shape that I sort of built up for myself of the mounds of grass. And like that. And just start layering them on top of each other. And now you can go back with dark ones. And you can let darker ones come up here and cover them up, right? And you can change the shape of them. Like some of them will be tall and it'll just be a couple of them. Variants. Just breaking it up, breaking it up. And some tall little pieces just kind of sticking off, different angles. A couple individual ones. Let's get back to this path. This is also another place that you can tell more information. And that is by covering up the front part of the path with your grass from this side. Going back to the bristly one. So I could hand paint those, but that was going to take too long. So go back to something that has more information on it. Because the brush is more complex. So I'm suggesting a lot of grass. I'm suggesting a lot of different kinds of plants. And all you're going to do is going to keep switching between different kinds of brushes and changing your brush strokes. So some you're going to be doing, this sort of pattern. Some of them you're going to be doing little horizontal patterns. Some of them you're just going to be doing dots. And you mix all of them together and you're going to get something that has a real richness to it. Come in here and just start hitting up some maybe that are going at an angle, right? And this kind of grass maybe is a little more blue. And that's cool. But if I do this one, say I do a really nice group of them back here, and they're very distinct, right? Then, whatever this kind of grass is, I don't want it to just stand out like that. I want to come back and want to use another brush or some more strokes to break it up. So now it's behind this other thing. So now it's just part of the collection. Now it's not just up there on top of everybody else. Yeah. I do think that that grass back there was a little tall, though. Let's fix that. Now, let's talk about the edge, though. Edge is a big way to tell what the texture is of something. I know I've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again because it is pertinent specifically to this image. So I'm going to come back here. And the edge, I would take more time to do better. So I'm going to sample the sky color. And I'm going to work into the grass. And then I'm going to work the grass back into the sky. So I'm just coming down. I'm coming down to it with different angles. Some of them coming like this way. Some are coming that way. Because the grass itself is going to be going different directions, right? And I also don't want it all to be sharp. I am thinking about edges. And frankly, grass blades at that distance is going to get very fuzzy. I don't want to necessarily blur it. I'm not going for a lens blur. I'm just going for a complexity. So I want to find somebody that has... maybe this. Oh, this is a nice one. Now look at this brush. Let's find something that's a little more colorful. And I'm going to make a new layer just for me to test brushes on that won't affect anybody else. So here's this guy. I'll scale him up a bit. And he's got some randomness to that. But let's change his settings. What I want him to do is go with my direction. I want his angle to follow my direction. So if I go like that, he'll go this way. If I go like this, he'll go that way. Now, there's also a lot more than I need right now, so I'm going to lower the spacing, or increase the spacing. I also want to decrease the scatter a little bit. He's scattering a little broad for me. So if I want to go like this, okay, that might be too much. That might be too much on the spacing. Pull it back a little bit. Okay. That seems pretty good. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Go back over to this layer. So the sky, I'm going to come in to some shapes like this. Come back in with some green. Hit it up that way. No, that's too, again, it's too sharp. It's too perfect. I don't like it. That's not what I'm looking for either. I like more dots. Yeah, that's actually more realistic. It's just going to get kind of fuzzy back there. So I want to fuzz out that by adding in more dots, just sort of breaking it up. And it's a back and forth. I'm going to use this dot brush in order to soften the edge up. Then I'll come back and, like I did on the other ones, I'll pull out some specific spots and have those blades stand out. Do I ever use the pressure for opacity and pressure for size buttons up in your header bar, or are your brushes set to always react to your pen pressure? They're almost all set to react to pen pressure. I don't mess with the ones at the top hardly ever. Yeah. Hey man, Federer, I was just curious. I don't see right here how many people are in the chat. I don't know why it doesn't tell me. It seems like it should tell me. 21. Okay, there we go. Trying to get used to how to use that on there. I also have this brush, which is a triple dot, and it just can do that. So it's like this is the obvious choice, right? Something like this that has, oh, nice straight marks, right? Well, that's the obvious choice. Don't use that one because it's going to just come out too perfect. It's going to come out where you're going to draw every single grass blade with it. So it can be fine as a little spot where you just need that detail, but you don't want to over rely on a brush like that. So I don't really even want to touch it. Now this one is my fancy one, but it has so many little bristles on it that it can actually make a very faded look. So that's going to serve well up there on the top. So I can have that fade. And then I can just use my own little go-to round brush. And don't ever underestimate the value of little dots. Little dots. They don't even have to be connected to anything. A lot of grasses have a little thing on the top of them, and you can't even see the stalk at a distance. So, you know, let's grab some sort of little orange tone. I'm going to come in here, and maybe it has little flowers that come down the stem. So it'll be taller, and it'll come down the stem. But we can't even see the stem. All we can see is the little orange thingies. But we'll put those in there. Add a variety, right? And I'll add some more back here. Now, if I was going to do this piece, you know, properly and spend a lot more time at it, I would add some up here too, you know, like bigger ones, so that you could see the detail on them up close. And then as they go into the distance, you would know what those are back there, and you could also understand what they are, what their size is, that sort of thing. But honestly, with as much going on in this, then you could spend a long time doing that. But I think that gives you a good idea how you can sort of work something out that's straightforward. Okay, this is the work of Alessandro Mancini. Okay, well, I can come through here and I can address these as if they were paintings, okay? I don't know your 3D programs. I'm not going to be able to tell you what to change on the programs to get the results. But we could just talk concepts if you want, and that I can do. So, Cadence of Mountain Fantasy, we're not going through all of these. That is a lot of stuff. Let's just pick out a couple and go through them. This is really cool. I guess on a scene like this, it looks good, but I'm not getting a lot of point to it. Like, if it was an image painting, I would want them to be going somewhere. I'd want to see, like, this basically has no detail, but if there was some sort of tunnel there, then I'd be thinking, oh, they're going to the tunnel. Or you indicate just the mast of a sunken ship. Oh, they're going to the sunken ship. So it would be more of a narrative thing. The rendering looks good, but narrative-wise, I don't see much there. Also, I think it would be more interesting if this light wasn't here, and allow that to go into shadow, so this is a silhouette. So this feels more comforting. Like there's no danger or anything, because there's a light here. They could escape here. But if that was in shadow, then all of a sudden, the only way to get out is way far away, and at least adds some sort of drama or feeling to it. Okay, next. Cold immersion. Grass looks believable. I've been scuba diving, so yeah, that's kind of what it looks like underwater. I'm not questioning that. I would suggest maybe finding some sort of other vegetation to break that up. Basically, it looks like variations of the same plant. So maybe something else that has leaves or a different feel to it. Even a couple of birds setting up here would be kind of amusing. Like, these birds are completely unaware that this guy is swimming under the water right around them. That would be kind of interesting. Or put some other signs of life in here. A couple little fish would be kind of cool. I would think that this would not be an unusual place to maybe have a couple of broken branches sort of just washed up around the rocks or something. Yeah. Set dressing it like you would for a movie. This one, something about this one makes it definitely look more like a render than a real image. I would have to get out photos of actual caves and compare the two to figure out what it is. I do like the thin ones coming down. It feels like here that there was a flat wall with some lines on it. Or maybe they're cast shadows. That confuses me a little bit, so I'd want to see that cleared up. This looks like a straight line and some lines on the wall. So if this is supposed to be something man-made, I'd say definitely make it more noticeable that this part is man-made, that it's carved, that it has blocks, or that it's carved so intricately that it must be man-made, and then you can see the stalagmites growing over it that it's been there so long. This is pretty cool. Costa Rica Passage. Looks like something from Alice in Wonderland. I think that's just pretty straightforward. That's pretty fun. I like the wobbly shapes to them. It makes it feel organic, natural. You got some variations of colors in this. This is good. So he has like this kind of grass here, and then he has this orange kind, and then he has the green kind. And that's good. He's breaking it up, showing a diversity of the ecology. Here we have Dark Cave. If you're just doing the render itself, then it looks pretty good. There's really no point of interest, though. I mean, as soon as I glance at it, I'm already disinterested because there's nothing there for me to really look at. So, yeah, even this is another place. If you had a model for a wrecked ship, toss that back in there. All of a sudden, you got something to look at. Somehow, this ship got way back in this cave, and it's busted there. Okay, well, it gives me something. Also, this water could be a really cool place to have some lighting. Have some of the lighting coming from underneath or shooting horizontal through here. And you could have these great turquoise colors. Or if the lighting was only coming from underneath and it was casting the light up, from the bottom, that would be a lot more interesting. Because the cave looks fairly believable. But the lighting isn't telling me much. It's not creating any kind of mood. It's not really different in any way. Yeah. I like this. The archway with the little tree on it, with the little fella next to it. That's fine. This tree feels artificial. It's just like in this guy. These models are so perfect. I mean, you can look at that. They're just so perfect. Very symmetrical, very even. That would rarely happen in nature. So I would say go in and bust those up, change up, make it so that it's a little less perfect. Some limbs broken off this side, more limbs on that side. It has a creak to it a little bit. It has to bend back. It's not completely straight. Yeah, just adding some variance to it. But overall, it's a pretty cool scene. I think you might even be able to crop in on it a little bit. I don't know that you need the top 10 or 20%. You could keep this guy in the foreground, but I'd crop down on it just for the scene. Exploration. I like this feeling of the big rock on that, but I'd play up with it. I'll play up with it. Make this go even further. Make this go way out here, almost to the edge, so that this whole huge rock is resting on this. And you could even make that like even a bit thinner. So you're really getting the feeling like this guy, you know, if this thing gives out, this guy is squashed. There's so much weight being held up on this thing. These are super perfect. Like every one of those is very, very even. So maybe doubling up some of them, or I see some of them kind of are. Double up on more of them so that, you know, there's 2 on this one, and then there's one other leg right there. Yeah. But let's look at some of the other ones. He had exploration, and then he has. I'll just have to pick one at random. Fantasy. Let's see what we have. Fantasy. If I were to change it up, what would I do? I would add another little, some sort of walkway, tower, something, so that you would think that people who live here, people naturally build a little building, hut, porch, or something right at the edge of whatever it is. So, to me, it would make sense that right here at the edge of this waterfall, there's going to be a little building. And right here at the tip of this thing, there's going to be a little building with a little porch overhanging. That's human nature. So I would add those down here. As far as this, I would take these back further. If you're going to be going with this overhanging rock thing, then push it even further. Get rid of these 2 lower ones and let this really recede back. And make it feel like these things are hanging out a lot. And then I would continue that up here too, so that this has been eaten away. We don't really need that light right here. In fact, I would make that be cut back a lot, so that the shade and the darkness of that hollowed spot would be up against this white building, so that building would stand up more. And then it would give the continuity of shape in between the way that that's 8 out there with the way that it's 8 out here. The divination, yeah, this one definitely seems more artificial than the others. She's very staticky, so I think that's probably not what you were going for. I do like the feel of the overgrown ruins, though. And it's good to have this one coming back into the image, going that angle. You really wouldn't want to angle it this way. It pushes you out of the image. So this one helps hold you in. That's a good call. I would expect to see a lot more imperfection in these rocks. It's like all of a sudden it's just missing. And where the rocks themselves don't seem to be weathered that much. I would expect to see a lot more chunks coming out of them, or piles of leaves up against the side of them. This would just have be dirt and leaves and little weeds all along the corner that would not stay clean for very long. And you know, this sort of thing is just, you're just thinking out the scene. How do I make it more believable? How to make things more believable is not always about how do I get better textures, how do I get more detail. Subconsciously, you could look at the scene and say, something's off. And it's not because the detail is off. It's because, just logically speaking, there would be a collection of dirt and leaves and little, you know, saplings and stuff along the edge of that. And that rock would be more aged. And there would be more dirt. And there would be more moss. And these are just natural processes that aren't there, that your mind picks up on subconsciously and says, yeah, something's off. Necro, skeleton. I need a tiebreaker here, guys. It's 4 and 4. Alright, so we've got skeleton. Okay, let me just close that one. Okay, so what resolution we're at? Definitely not enough. We need more resolution. Let's set that up to 4K. Alright. And I want to get rid of the orange so much. We can just make that gray. It'd be more useful, unless I want to tint it. You know what? I just want to get to lines. Let's get lines first. I'll make a new layer. Make the background layer white. Put the layers over here so you guys can see it. Like over here. And then I want to get rid of this orange, so I'll open the layers palette, go to white balance, click it on the orange, and it'll get rid of the orange. And then I'm going to get rid of some of that other stuff. I will then get rid of that. Erase out some of this stuff. Get rid out some of that fuzz. You can also use the dodge tool. I'll set that to highlight. And then I can dodge out just that light gray tone, which is easy enough. And this is where I can just have some clean lines. I'll do a little painting underneath it, and then I will do painting over it. I'll set that, you know, it kind of bugs me that that is so long. There we go. Set that to multiply so that I can see it. Now, any adjustments that I want to make to this before I start. I don't think that's what your forearm arm... I don't think that's what it looks like. Okay, this is wrong. This is just bugs me a little bit. I think his forearm is just too short, man. His forearm needs to be longer than that. So, like, his hand needs to be back here. And then, yeah. So, what I need to do is lengthen out his forearm. So I'm going to do a little copy and paste in order to get this. That feels a little better. One of the problems, I think, is that this actually needs to be coming to you. So let's flatten those lines down and then make that adjustment. So this basically needs to be coming down here, because it's completely flat to you, and it shouldn't be flat to you. It should be almost parallel with his body. So he's doing it where, I don't know if I'm in the right angle. So he's doing it like his arm is going out like that, and it needs to be brought in like this. So quick little redrawing here. Grab some of this gray. We should see the opening to this. Okay, any other major things we need to change here? Just for looks sake, I'm going to change his pauldron some. I'm going to make that a little bigger. Push it off of his shoulder a little bit more. There we go. You still have the blade running across it there. Give him, he's supposed to be a little bulkier. He came off a little thinner than I had intended. His lower arm bones are crossed while they shouldn't be in this position. His lower arm bones crossed and they shouldn't be in this position. Yeah, you're probably right there. Let's see. This one also needs to be adjusted then, since the other one was. I might sort that one out in the painting. I couldn't remember offhand when I was sketching it on the anatomy of the way the forearms cross each other. There we go. And his torso is altogether too far forward. So let's move that back. have his chest sticking out a bit more. Okay, computer, come on. I can't remember what this was. Some sort of strap, I think, but that's a little confusing. Maybe I'll add it in back later, but right now it's just sort of confusing. Get rid of that. This. I think we still have some ribs coming down here. We have some ribs sticking out. Yeah. And then there also should be some pieces down here. I didn't really go into it, but we could have some pieces going across there, then maybe a strap going across the front side, you know, from underneath. Just something to bridge that gap a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so let's flatten that down. And now that I can set to multiply. Lighten that up a little bit. We can start sketching back here. Now, what sort of color scheme do I want to do for this? I'm going to have him darker, not a lot of light on him, some backlight on him, maybe he has some glowing bits. Alright, wait for some of these thumbnails to load. These are some photos, travel photos I took when I was over in Spain at an event. But what I'm looking for is just something I can use maybe for colors. That's kind of interesting. Maybe that. Open with. Okay, so I want to put that in my background. So once I'm going to do this, then I'm able to darken everything and pull him out from the background. And I can work with him independent from the background for a little bit. Just create a simple mask. I will try to do this fast. Just a quick block in. But use my time effectively too. I don't want to just go abrupt with some of the colors. I kind of want to sneak up on them a little bit. So, again, I'm not wanting to do a perfect even pass on everything. I'm trying to build in little light and dark patterns as I'm going. These, I think I want gold. So, I'm going to pick some of these darker tones. They actually look fairly gold to me. Now, once I put in the basic tones, and that's what I'm doing now, I'm just trying to get some basic tones, establishing what the color is of the different areas. Then I will come back and start painting over the lines, because I want to get rid of them. I don't want them to stay there. But I have to have enough distinction between them, and that is the different objects, that I no longer need the lines to support me being able to tell the difference between them. And I do have a bluish light, a cool light on this shadow side. So I want things to be tinting that way. And now gold has a tendency to go to the green side if it's cooler. So I'm tossing in some greens into the golds. And this shield, this dark part, either I want that black or I want that a dark red. Not bad. Okay, continue blocking. This is a nice dark shape over here. I don't want to lose that, so grab something darker. Accentuate it. Maybe this is like a black spike. That would actually be nice. He could have things that are actually black, like a dark graphite metal. That would be cool. So I'm just thinking about playing. See, I'm trying to find ways to still have cool shapes and have the tones play against each other so things stand out rather than having the lines do the heavy lifting. And by putting in lots of different colors here on the crown, it allows me something to play off of. And here, getting nice bright light from on that blade. I will probably brighten that up later. Right now, that's not a priority. I was just kind of curious how that would look if it was nice and bright like that. Okay, otherwise, let's go with black. So now we're dealing with black armor with red and gold. I'm okay with that. That's cool. Yeah, the background is more saturated than he was, and I want him to pop out a bit more. So I'm going to tone it down so that I can then go in and add in the lights more where I want them. And I do that a lot more now than I used to. I used to always just paint in the shadows, but now I do more where I paint things dark and then add the lights where I want them, rather than the other way around. It's funny how quick your sketches look better than some artists' finished pieces. I've done this process a lot. This part's fun. And it's really learning to hold back from trying to get fine. It's focusing on the big stuff first instead of the small stuff. All of this black here on the shield part, that's kind of throwing me. Alright, computer, I'm not holding down a key. You need to stop doing that. Thank you. Okay, maybe we're going to just start going a little bit at a time. Sort of back up, look at this. What's working, not what's not working. That's not really working. That needs to be darker. This shape of the blade needs to have a more distinct edge to it. So I'm going to darken that up. And this is where artistic, interpretation comes in. Maybe if it was a photograph, it wouldn't be that dark. But I want a dark edge on it. And then I can have some light coming in from behind the head over here. And as if it's still just hitting that angle across. Just grab a little more of that red. No, too much. And no, that's still too much red. What are you doing? Stop. Oh, that's my color changing brush. That's why it kept giving me something other than what I was clicking. So I can let that light come across here, and that does well to help pull out some of those shapes. I can come back with a dark shape and clean that up. So that's nice. I'm trying to find ways now in order to help pull out the shapes. Like this one, it needs to get lighter. Sorry for bumping the computer there. That needs to come up here. Then this can be a dark shape against a lighter shape. And that works. This is all sort of getting lost in here. Maybe some of this. That needs to be gold, actually. Oh, no, that's a strap. Alright, so that's going to be dark red. That's what we're doing, like leather. The leather fabric-y stuff is all red. These are bones. They need to be a bit lighter. A little bit warmer. A little warmer than that. Let's get some. Yeah, that whole face. Skulls are actually a little bit warmer than you'd think. Compared to that, yeah. Just glaze that. Oh, nope, you moved it. Stop. Glaze these, get them a bit warmer. Yeah, okay. And that also means that we need to warm this up some. Hands don't need to be quite that cold. We can put some cool light on them, but their initial color doesn't need to be quite that cold. And this ring would be gold then, if we're following along with our color schemes for the guy. And throw some different colors on it. Some like green stuff here. Really dark stuff here. Okay. It is the holidays. I'm going to wear my hat. There we go. That is pretty slick right there. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm thinking about the next process. I'm just talking it through. What I need to do is clean this up just a little bit more, and then we're going to start painting over the lines, because the lines are constraining me some, since they do set that. Now, see, if I take away the lines, it does have a pretty good read to it. I mean, I can tell what's going on. So I just want to continue it until that's really set. Then we'll start painting over the lines. It does show me that these ribs are too light. I do need to just darken them down a bit so they do not compete in lightness with the lit areas. Then we're going to also make this part of the armor dark as well. So let's put that in. So it's all dark armor with just accents of gold and red. Then we have this light face. I'm play down that cool light. I don't know that cool light's really what I need. Yeah, I'm actually not feeling that cool light a lot. So I thought I would go for that. Sort of a classic, I'd say Dungeons and Dragons thing, is to make a cool light one side, warm light the other side. And let me take that off. That's in the right shape. And that's what I want. Also, I want some more atmosphere. This, I need more depth to it. It feels very flat right now. Okay, now I'm looking at the gold here. And we have the bright gold here. And then once it starts crossing over into the shadow side, I should have a spot here along the edge where it gets very dark. So I'm going to put that in. And then it'd be on the edge of this one, edge of that one, edge of this, and edge of this. And then on this side, it needs to be kind of a darker, greener version of that color. Take that red down a little bit more. Yeah, pulling that... I feel better about pulling that cool light out a little bit. It wasn't really selling what I wanted. So... I either would need to put more light. I might need... Alright, let me... I'll talk through some of my processes, what I'm thinking about here. I'm pretty happy with it for what it is at the moment. That lighting, I'm happy with the dark armor and stuff. There's no depth to the image, so I need to do something about that. Artificially, I can try to create some depth by adding atmosphere over this arm and the back and this part here, or over the blade, as if the smoke is giving some more atmosphere to it, and that could be a good option. I also need to put some amount of light on his face. Just a little fill illumination on his face, because that's the focal point. And probably down here on the shield. Then, if that's the case, then this basically needs to go off into silhouette. That just needs to be silhouetted. There really isn't anything of importance right here. It's all in that area. So I'm going to say it's like that. So I'll try to make this be my primary area. Do some work here on this piece. Do some work on the face. You keep changing my key. And do some work on the shield. And this then would mean that that is going into more of a silhouette, and it can go very dark. This is just an illustrative decision. Whether it's completely realistic or not is not the issue. That is not what I'm basing that decision on. So I'm going to allow that to go more silhouetted as it goes off. And then we will put, I'll try to, let's see, an exposure. No, I don't think it's one. Do a levels. Okay, so I'm going to make a levels over top of that and then blank it out, have a mask on it. And that way I can come over here and get white and paint that. And that'll bring just a little light to the face. Don't want it elsewhere. Just want it part of that face. Just like that part of the face. Kind of coming across. And then I'll hit part of that breastplate, which will be one of my focal points. And we can have it out here too, hitting on that side of the... this part of that. And there, that'll be my focal points, right? Yeah, I can just flatten that down into them then. Yep. Now, do I want to lighten or darken the background in order to help pull out areas? Yes, I do. So, nice big soft brush. I'm going to set that to midtones. If I set it to highlights, it's going to add more color into it. If I set it to midtones, it'll keep it a little duller. And I just want to pull it up around that dark shape a little bit. Pull it out here around these dark shapes so they read a little better. Yeah. I was just looking at the snapshots. Yeah, I'm good with that progression. Okay. That's something else that I do. I go to the history palette and I take snapshots down here with this. And that saves the state of the image at that particular time. Now, it doesn't save it like you could close the file and come back to it. You close the file, it's gone. But as long as the file remains open, you can go back to it. They also do eat up your memory, so you don't want to save 50 states, because that's essentially making 50 versions of the file in the short-term memory. But I do want to add some atmosphere, and I want to try that out. This is the linear dodge. You know, I'm going to go down and just flatten that down into there. Make a new layer over top of all that. And nice big brush. Brighten it or lighten it. There we go. Got the idea that there's kind of a fog, and maybe this guy's just been summoned, right? And there's a fog around here, some sort of magic. And I want to soften it out, because right now everything is harsh. Everything is solid. And maybe I can fake some atmosphere. Back here, let me set this to lighten. Yeah. We get a different brush. We're talking about brush shapes. I'm going to get one like this and set him up a lot larger. Try to use him to kind of create some foggy patterns. Seeing if I like that. That looks kind of dirty. Yeah. Then elsewhere, I'm just using a light layer over here. And I want to paint out areas where I just want to soften things up some. I'll add some other shapes back here in the background. I'm gonna add just, instead of brightening that whole area, I'm gonna just have a couple of spots that are catching light. And then go back to color. And I want to warm this area up. I had that cool light over there earlier, but I don't really need that anymore. It's kind of throwing me off. So there we go. I'm going to warm that up a little to the yellow side. Then all the darks on here are very purple. So I'm going to shift those over. Yeah. So that the gold is not so purple in the shadows, but it's more warm. More like green red. There we go. Cool. Any comments, guys? There's maybe too much yellow in the midtones. I'm gonna just play around with this, see if I find. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to do some thinking here, and I've been very quiet. That is not a proper way to do a channel. So let me explain more. Trying to clean this up. I did paint some of those holes between the ribs, but I painted them instead of racing them, which was the better thing to do. And now I need to just erase that so that it will match up with the background. I can paint in the background. Trying to make this lighting a little more dramatic. We've got this low light coming across here with just some atmosphere, kind of softening that out and bringing in the focal point here on the head. This helmet definitely does not seem even, or the head is not even, or somebody is not even there. I'll have to work on that. Let's tone this down. This is getting altogether too bright right there on the breastplate. So I am going to set that back to normal and see how it looks. What I do need, something that is catching my mind, is this needs to be bright along here. All of this needs to be catching. Now, for a major piece, what I would start doing is just going piece by piece. I would start something like on this shield, and I wouldn't detail it to finish, but I would start just going and doing a refining pass. So, you know, that's what I'm going to do right now. Just start here and start refining these shapes. Now, I'm now painting on top of the lines, so I can paint them out or change them as I wish. On these bolt thingies, I'm going to paint them dark to begin with, and then come back and paint light on top of that. And they are more squarish. They're not your round bolts. I'm just using my regular little round brush. 12 seems about the right size. These tones, now these tones all seem pretty good right now, and I don't want to break away from them. I need to keep an idea of what my value scheme is for each area and stick in that. So I don't want to all of a sudden start grabbing wide range of values that aren't already there. There should be another live stream in 2 weeks. Like I said earlier, I will be out of town for Christmas. That's the plan anyway. So if for some reason I'm not getting out of town, then I will probably stream some next Monday. But if you don't hear otherwise, I will not be. So I've got to go over and work on some other commissions, but thank you, and I will see you guys later. Good luck on your giant character that you need to do. Send that in before 4 p.m. next week. Well, you know what? Let me take that back. I'm not doing it next week, am I? You have 2 weeks on it then. There you go. You have 2 weeks on the giant character. So, enjoy. Alright, well, happy holidays, everybody. And I will catch you later.